What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about how wide receivers can correctly drop their hips at the top of the route. We're going to be going over some good examples, some bad examples, and then I'm going to give you guys a couple drills that you can do to work on dropping your hips at the top of the break. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you would like to train with us, we're traveling out to 15 different states this offseason for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. We have a new location added to our travel list. We are going to be coming out to Phoenix, Arizona on January 21st and 22nd. So if you guys are local to any one of these cities that we will be traveling out to this year, we'd absolutely love to have you out. So check out that very first link in the description below, fellas. That's where all the info is, where you guys can sign up. We would love to see you out there. Again, new edition, Phoenix, Arizona. Let's get started with this video. So now, first example here, this is going to be kind of like a comeback drill that they're working at the University of Auburn. Now, personally, I don't like working these types of drills with my wide receivers, but I get it. It's a warm-up drill. This is not a drill where there's probably just to get them in the habit of getting in and out of a break. So I'm not going to pick on the drill too much here, but one of the biggest critiques that everybody loves to ask, or questions I should say, is what foot should you snap down with on given routes? So let's look at these examples here from these Auburn wide receivers. So this wide receiver snaps with his outside foot. This next wide receiver snaps with his inside foot. Right? So what's the difference between the two of those? Is either one of those wrong? Now, I'm not going to say that either one of those was wrong. I do have a preference, though, and I'm going to explain to you why I have a preference. So this first wide receiver, you see how he breaks on the outside foot on a comeback. Now, when you break on the outside foot on a comeback, in theory, what you might be thinking is, oh, well, if I go on my outside foot, I could just hook my left one around my inside foot and be out of the break in 2 steps. Now, this is why I don't like doing these 5-yard close drills, because wide receivers get into bad habits of doing this, because they take those 2 steps because they're trying to get out of it in the least amount of steps possible, right? Now, here's the thing. If you're running a comeback, how deep are comeback routes usually? 12 yards, 15 yards, 18 yards. Are you going to probably realistically be able to get out of a break running full speed, selling vertical, 15 yards downfield in 2 steps? Probably not, right? But at 5 yards, you can, because it's not that hard of a break. You can easily get out of it because it doesn't require that much change of direction. It doesn't require that much of a hip drop. But the thing is, when you're doing these 5-yard close together drills, you have to treat it realistically to what you would be doing 15 yards downfield. So that's why I like this second wide receiver's rep, because I feel like getting out in 3 steps is more realistic to what you would do at the top of the break 15 yards downfield. So you see how he snaps on the inside foot, can pivot, can hook. Those 3 steps, if he gets low enough, if he's violent enough, can be translated to a 15-yard route rather than just a 5-yard route. So fellas, I'm not going to say that it matters what foot you snap down with, but when it's against zone coverage and it's a 15-yard route downfield, let's say it's a comeback, for example, I'm going to need that inside foot to break when it's zone. Now, the reason why I say that is because when it's, let's go back to this first example. If this were like man coverage, right, and he's 15 yards downfield, you're not going to be able to count your steps on the break. So let's say you're running a 15 back to 12-yard comeback. Usually that's going to be your 4th inside step is going to be the break point step. So you'll count, you'll go 1, 2, 3, then on the 4th inside, that's when you will snap down and use that trigger step. And I'm going to give you some drills for that in a second here. But when we snap down against man coverage, it's more about landmark. You will learn this when you get to college, when you get to that next level, that it's going to be like, okay, it's 4th inside if it's zone, but if it's man, you have to get to 15 yards. Because when it's man, you're worried about getting off a press. When you get to 15, we got to break at 15, because that's when the quarterback expects us to break. So that's when it might be okay to go with that outside foot. You might take a couple extra steps, but I would rather have extra steps, you being able to sell vertical and dropping on a dime, than you chopping your feet and worrying about snapping with your inside foot. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I'm going to go through these drills again. Now, one of the common mistakes, we're still going to look at one more route here from this wide receiver on this drill. Not this wide receiver, the next wide receiver that's up, is that guys are not violent with their hips in drill settings. You know what I mean? So if you're doing a drill, and wide receiver coaches love to work drills like this, where they'll set up cones, they're 5-6 yards apart. I personally don't like that, because it is extremely rare, except for a hitch route, that you are breaking down, you're dropping your hips on a 5-yard route. Like, that's very rare. I'm a big practice how you play guy, so why am I going to work on these shorter drills that are close together when we are actually going to be running full 15-yard routes? Now, I know what everybody's going to say. They're going to say, well, they're working on their technique, they're working on their footwork. I get that. And the drills I'm going to show you here in a second are drills for that I feel are a little bit more effective. But watch with this. When this wide receiver comes up into the break, you see how he's got like a slow sink of his hips. Now, that slow sink of your hips will not translate 15 yards downfield. That's what I'm trying to get at here. If you got a bunch of cones set up back and forth and you got wide receivers, running in like a figure eight around them, but every single cone break is like a slow sink of their hips because they're not giving them enough space to sell vertical to open up their stride, you're not really working on good habits. That's my biggest thing. So we want to try to avoid this. If you're doing drills at your school where you're involving breaking down, we need to be violent. We cannot have a slow sink of my hips just because the drill is close together. Let's focus on standing up, opening my stride, dropping my pad level explosively, because that is what will translate to the actual break when we get to the full route. Because let's look at this next example here. This is Richie James running a comeback downfield. You see how he snaps down, right? 15 yards downfield, right? So there's 5, there's 10, there's 15. That's where he's breaking at. So what foot does he snap with? Inside foot, so he could pivot, so he could hook, right? And be able to drive out of it. But you see how violent he is with that hip drop. It's not a slow sink of his hips, because that slow sink is not what we're going to have to do to get separation. Let's do things that actually build that trigger step, that snap down to get me in and out of the break. So now, what are some drills that could work on that? This is a drill that I saw on Twitter that I would try to avoid at all costs, because the drill that I'm going to show you here at the end is honestly to work on the trigger step, right? To work on you having a violent drop of your hips. Now, these wide receivers, and again, not to knock the wide receiver coaches on this, I just think there's a little bit better of a way to do it for the athlete, and for the guys that do this stuff on their own, I definitely think there's a better way to do it. So this drill was captioned wide receivers working on their snap, like their snap down at the top of the break. Now, they're pretty much doing just a basic ladder drill where they're stepping hard. They're trying to mimic the trigger step. So I want you to key in on this wide receiver here. So they're trying to mimic that like step that they do, like top of the route that we saw Richie James do, where they're at the top of the break and they have to drop their hips. But the problem is on a drill like this, I get it. They're working on the footwork of it. They're working on foot placement probably. They're working on not reaching outside their frame. I love all of that. But the problem is that none of them are dropping their hips. They're all staying tall. They're all dipping their chest down. But when you just dip your chest down and don't drop your butt, when you got 15 yards of speed and you just bend at your waist, you are going to fall flat on your face. You have to be able to drop your butt down and bring your chin to your knee rather than chin over the knee and chest over the knee, because you're not even dropping at your hips. You have to almost like treat it like you're sitting into a chair. So let's go to the next drill here that I'm going to show you guys. So this is the drill I played to the next clip. This is the drill that I'm talking about. So same idea. I have this set up with cones, but you could do the exact same thing with ladders. Now, I'm not rolling through it. I'm not doing fast feet going down the ladder. And listen, I understand that is a practice setting. If for all the coaches that are listening to this that maybe have done that drill before or whatever, like I understand, like you're on a time schedule. I coach high school ball. I get it. You only have like 7 minutes with those guys, which is not enough time, by the way, but I get it. You're on a time schedule. You got to roll through it. But this is a drill that I like to do to work on that same trigger step that I feel is a little bit more realistic. It's the same concept, but there actually is a hip drop involved. So you watch myself go here. I fall into this, and it forces you to have to actually drop low, or else you're going to fall flat on your face. So you're going to fall forward with your chest leading, because that is essentially what you are doing into the top of the route. You are running a 15-yard comeback. So to effectively drop my hips, I need to be able to be violent, right? I need to drop my butt down. I need to bring my chin to my knee. I need to snap. And again, like I said, regardless of the foot that you snap on, these are the mechanics of it. But I have to sell the route. I got to go full speed. So when I'm running full speed into a break point and I snap down, I need to make sure that I have good pad level. Right? So this drill forces you to have good pad level. You're falling forward, leading with your chest. So you have good pad level. So what I tell my guys is try to get your chest parallel to the grass the best you can. Because when you're falling forward, Your instinct is to catch yourself, right? You're not going to just let yourself fall flat on your face. So what do? You have to shoot the leg through. And that is your trigger step at the top of the break. And naturally what happens is that you drop your butt down. Naturally what happens, you bring your chin to your knee. If you don't let your, like if you land on your heel, you're probably going to be reaching. So just make sure that you don't land on your heel. And then if you land on your toes and you're bending at your waist, your chin's going to go way past your knee and you're going to fall forward. This drill forces you to have perfect form. If you focus on bringing chin to knee, and if you focus on striking the ground where your shin is straight, knee doesn't go past the toe, it puts you in that good position rather than us just doing the step, not actually dropping my hips. This right here will translate to the top of the route when we actually need to snap down. It's not about snapping down on drill work. It's about being able to snap down at the top of the route. So this type of drill will help with that. So I'm going to play it again full speed one more time. I have my receivers do this. We go 2 sets of 4 on each leg. So we'll go 2 sets of 4 on the left, then 2 sets of 4 on the right on each side before every single workout. Some of the receivers get tired of it, and I make sure, and it's on me to make sure that they don't do this, to go through the motions. They cannot go through the motions on this, because if they're lazy with this and they're just falling and just not waiting till the last second, not getting parallel to the grass, they won't get anything out of it. So make sure, fellas, you are training realistically. This is not the only drill that you can do. Just make sure that you are doing the everyday drills, mechanic drills that actually translate to the top of the break. We cannot be doing drills just for the sake of doing them. And we think that they work on it, but if you're never going to actually use it, if the drill is pointless, there is no reason to do it. There's no point in us doing a drill just because we've always done this drill. If it doesn't translate, if it doesn't help you get better, why are we even doing it? Okay, fellas, that's the whole purpose of this. I'm going to play it again full speed one more time. Make sure our drills are realistic to work on that hip drop and to have a correct hip drop at the top of the break. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. Always great to hear from you guys as usual. And again, fellas, coming out to 15 different states this offseason for 2-day long camps. Again, new addition. We are coming out to Phoenix, Arizona. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about our Arizona camp, so we're coming out there the 21st and 22nd. All the information, very first link in the description. I'll see you guys next time.